If you're an Amazon advertiser, then there's a 94.7% chance you're experiencing death by 1,000 cuts.
Your Amazon PPC campaigns are slowly bleeding out. They're being drained of their very life from thousands of seemingly insignificant keywords that are leaking ad spend without results.
It may seem small, inconsequential, or not worth your time to investigate each keyword.
But all that ad spend adds up, and it's your single largest reason for why you're unable to grow sales profitably.
Today, we'll share the secret to fixing this problem once and for all on That Amazon Ads Podcast.
And let us know what you think about the new intros. Comment if you like how we kick things off, if you hate it or love it, and we will adapt because we crave your love and attention.
All right, Steven, first things first. What the heck is death by 1,000 cuts? I hear you say it all the time. I see you talking about it on LinkedIn. In every AdLabs demo I've listened to of you, you always bring up death by 1,000 cuts. Sometimes I think people understand, sometimes they don't. But let's clear the air. Tell me what death by 1,000 cuts is.
Yeah. I assumed everybody knew what it was, so I've just been going off of it as if it's a thing that everyone knows. But I have come to realize not everyone knows what it is. So, death by 1,000 cuts is primarily caused by low visibility terms. And it's actually something, if for the long time followers of the podcast, especially those who've been here from the beginning, you know that the first 3-4 episodes we ever did were all about managing bids, because to us, that's the most important thing for driving success on Amazon. And we talked about these 4 different keyword conditions. We said, what do you do for high ACoS keywords, keywords with spend and no sales, low visibility keywords, low ACoS keywords. Talked about how to optimize bids for all of those. We never really talked about what do you do with these death by 1,000 cuts items, which are low visibility keywords technically, but they are all cumulatively adding up to a significant amount of wasted spend in your account. So if you were to just look at, everything with no sales, let's say your account spends $30,000 a month, and if you just filter down for your search terms, your targets, and you're like, let me just see everything that has no sales. It could be like half of your total ad spend is going to items. And sometimes there's a 50-cent click here, 50-cent click there. It's not a high spend, non-converting keyword. It's not a high ACoS keyword, but all that spend adds up at the end of the day to tens of thousands of dollars. And so we're here talking about how to fix that. And we never really addressed that in those first few episodes because it's a bit of a weird condition.
Yeah, that low visibility one is usually where people, in most cases, most softwares, most managers, they're going to be going through and just putting through simple bid increases. Like across the board, if something isn't getting enough visibility, we got to increase the bid to improve the aggressiveness of that keyword. And this is where that problem really starts to crop up and show up, is when you start inching those bids up, you're just adding to that potential overspend and non-converting spend.
And this episode is also great piggybacking off of our conversations around keyword harvesting criteria, as well as keyword harvesting frequency. And I think we hinted at this upcoming episode where we mentioned one of the big mistakes that we've seen. I mean, the last few episodes, I think they've been really good personally, just in terms of hopefully how helpful it is, just because from conversations with a lot of different brand owners and agencies lately, I've seen a lot of people needed this help with having a better understanding of harvesting, because over harvesting is a big problem. They're just harvesting way too many keywords, and there's a lot of problems that arise from that. One of those is death by 1,000 cuts, because, and I like sometimes using very extreme examples just to prove the point. So let's just pretend you have one campaign with one keyword, and it's just one phrase match keyword. That's it, right? You have one phrase match keyword for your whole entire account, and it has a $1 bid, and it's right hitting the target ACoS 30%. Okay, if that one keyword ever becomes a low visibility keyword or low ACoS, whatever, you can just increase the bid on that one keyword and you're gonna be fine. The amount of volume behind that, you're pretty much always gonna be able to keep that keyword calibrated. If it's high ACoS, you reduce it. If it's low ACoS, you increase it. Tons of data behind that, perfectly to calibrate it. You're never gonna have any major problems. But now, if instead of just that one phrase match keyword, if you had 100,000 exact match keywords, you took out every single possible search term that was coming through from that one phrase match keyword. So now you have, what did I say, 100,000? 100,000 keywords, exact match. A lot of those are going to frequently be low visibility because there's just so many of them. So your bidding algorithm, whether it's you doing it manually in a bulk sheet or another tool doing it, they're just going to be increasing bids, increasing bids, increasing bids. And pretty soon you're going to get up to like $5, $10 bids for these items that are just perpetually low visibility, not because the bid's not high enough, but because there's just not enough volume to that search term. So you're just going to get these runaway bids. And we've seen it happen before where software is getting to $10, $20. And yeah, you can put in some arbitrary values of just saying, I'm never going to let the bid go above $2 or something like that. And there's just better ways to go about it. And that's what we are going to be talking about. So anything else to add there, Andrew, or should we just dive in?
Let's get into it.
So the reason why I think this episode is so important is because within the past several months, with all of I've worked with a lot of agencies, onboarding them to AdLabs and brands, and the biggest thing that I just continued to uncover in all of these accounts was the death by thousand cuts problem, which was just a whole bunch of low visibility keywords that none of them were independently a problem, but on average, their bids were too high. Their bids were beyond what they could technically afford, just at an average CPC level, and that was contributing to a ton of wasted spend. And for anyone else that does not have this problem, and I'm about to show you how you can determine if you have this problem, you would not have the death by thousand cuts problem if one of these two conditions is true. Number one, you're using AdLabs and you fixed it. I don't think it's possible to fix it in any other tool. I'm more than welcome to hear you out if you disagree with me, but that's my belief. Second is you are under harvesting, right? So this problem can be caused by over harvesting. It can also be caused by just harvesting a good amount. If you're just doing the good amount, like the right amount of harvesting, it's still very likely that you could have this problem. When I am auditing accounts, I really love to demonstrate the value of how we can fix this problem. And when I see people do not have this problem, it's because they're under harvesting. So actually, right before we hit record on this podcast, there was this one brand. They had about $100,000 a month in spend, and I was very excited to show them all of the wasted opportunities with death by thousand cuts. But they only had 50 total keywords in the entire account. Right? That's just given the volume, given the catalog size. They had 50 products spending that much, and there's just you should have more keywords than that. So kind of going back to that first example I said, where if you just had one phrase match keyword, with hundreds of thousands search terms on the other side of that, it's just one bid. You're not really going to have death by thousand cuts for that keyword. You might be having that on the search term side of things, but that's a different story because you can't control the bids on those individual search terms. So, anyways, I'm already getting way off track here. How do you identify death by thousand cuts? Well, the simplest way to do it is you would go to Amazon, download a targeting report for all of your campaigns, and you need to determine two things. You need to understand what is your average clicks to conversion, a metric that we call the ACTC, and that is basically just clicks divided by orders. So for your whole account. So if you average like a 10% conversion rate, that's one order for every 10 clicks. Great. Flip that upside down. 10 clicks for every order. Your average clicks to conversion is 10 clicks. And then you also want to know what is your average target CPC, which would just be for the whole account, your sales divided by your clicks times your target ACOS. So all of your sales divided by all of your clicks, that's your revenue per click. Multiply that by your target ACOS, that gets you to your target CPC. So you have your targeting report at an overall account level. You know on average how many clicks to get a conversion, and you know on average how much you should be spending at a very, very high level CPC basis. So you would filter on your report. You would apply a filter for, I want to see all of my keywords where my spend where the number of clicks so far on these keywords is fewer than my average clicks to conversion. So if it was 10 average clicks to conversion, it would be 10 clicks. So everything with less than 10 clicks, that's our low visibility keyword threshold. And then you also want to look at what are all of the keywords where the bid is above my average target CPC. So if that was $1, let's just say, then you would be looking for, okay, what are all my keywords that have a bid beyond $1, more than $1, and also the and fewer than 10 clicks. So, Andrew, I lost my train of thought while I was talking. But do you think that makes sense so far? Am I making sense to people?
Yeah, I think so. So basically, you just need to figure out on average for the account what's the average clicks conversion to basically classify things as low visibility or not, and then looking for areas where the bid is higher. And would you
Mhm.
also, you could get a little bit more sophisticated with this and be like, okay, what's the max effective bid for all of these? You'd have to also factor in placements. It gets really complicated at that
Yes,
point.
yes.
So,
Excellent
should you
point.
use your CPCs? Like, how would you go about that? I mean, we solved it with AdLabs using an app,
Yes.
but
I'm glad you said this, Andrew, because this is very, very technically accurate. Your average target CPC, it shouldn't be as your bid greater than the average target CPC, because technically your base bids should always be a little bit lower, because within any of your campaign placements, one of those placements is underperforming everything else. And therefore, because you can't go negative on any given placement, you have to reduce the base bids on all the keywords in that campaign to effectively downbid the worst performing placement. And then you would increase for the other two placements proportionally so that you keep all of the sales and visibility there. We got a whole other episode on how to calculate placements, so you check that out. But yes, Andy's correct. So your actual like target CPC would technically be at the base, the worst performing placement level. So with that, let me actually we're gonna pull up a screen share and we're gonna take a look at that, because I think things will make a lot more sense while we pull that up. So let me pull up the screen share, and can you see my screen, Andrew?
yeah,
Oh,
it
I got
says,
the wrong tab open. Let me
oh,
close that out. Okay, you should be seeing AdLabs.
if you need to talk to me afterwards, just let me know.
Thanks, man.
Welcome.
But yeah, so we got AdLabs open here. We'll go into the placements tab now. Just so you guys know, I'll, you can do all this in the ad console. We're just using AdLabs because it's faster, load times and everything like that. And also, this is one of my clients, but we were able to basically jumble jarble all of the keywords and campaigns. So this is going to be a great solution for us, so we can actually do more screen shares. The reason why we can't normally is because it's like confidential data, but this is now concealed. Everything, Sneaky Sneakers is our fake name. All of the campaigns and targets, they're all nonsense. So don't come at me in the comments being like, what kind of a campaign naming convention is that? Yeah. So for this brand, what we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop these are all of we're on the placements tab. We're seeing all of the total placements that we have here. And if we drag and drop the placement type, that will aggregate it up. So now we can find out what is the average. So for this brand, their target A cost is around 30%. Okay. So we're hitting 30% target A cost across the board for all three placements. This is how your placements should look when they are optimized. If you're not getting equal target A costs across all three placements, then talk to us, shoot me a message. But you can see here, this is a great example where for this brand, the average CPC should be around $1. If your target A cost is 30%, then your target CPC should be 95 cents, because that's currently what it is, and that's what we're getting. And that is, as you can tell, 95 cents is just 30% of the revenue per click. So that's how the math works. But the actual base bids, because we're reducing the base bids for all of the product pages performance, because you can just see here how wildly different the conversion rate is between. I'm going to turn off comparison for a second. You can see how wildly different the conversion rates are across all these placements. So all of the base bids should be quite a bit lower. So the average bid should not actually be 95 cents. That's the ultimate CPC after placements are accounted for. The average base bid should actually be around 60 cents. So that would be essentially our ceiling. And so we did a whole episode called how to calculate bid ceilings, something like that. I forget. But this episode is kind of a bit more in-depth and nuanced conversation around those bid ceilings. So yeah, great for pointing that out. So questions so far, do you think, Andrew, or should I just keep going?
No, I think we cleared that up. Let's keep it rolling.
All right. So we're going to look at, I'm going to go back to the targeting tab, and we're going to apply these same filters. So like we were saying, and actually you can see here, we have up at the top, the average clicks to conversion for this brand is 6. That's just the inverse of conversion rate. And so we are going to, and I'm looking at just the last 30 days. So we're going to apply this filter. We're going to say if clicks is less than, I'm just going to round up to 7. And then the other thing is if the bid is greater than, we were saying 60 cents, right? 59 cents. We'll
Yep.
say if the bid is greater than 60 cents. And by the way, we now have saved filters coming out. So I can say this is our death by 1,000 cuts. filter, which will be saved. So now we can quickly access it when we need it. So what this is going to show us are all the low visibility terms that on average are bidding more than what we can technically afford on an average CPC level. So let's see what we get when I hit apply filters. And we will have here 433 keywords that on average are, we have about $400 to spend compared to $35,000. And we have 400 targets that are averaging too high of a CPC or too high of a bid relative to how much we can usually afford. And that is creating 1% of all of our account spend is in this death by 1,000 cuts scenario. Now, this looks like a very, very bad example because you guys are looking at this being like, I do not see any problem here. And you are correct. There's not a problem here because, like I said, this account has been very well optimized. So we're not quite finding this condition. But if you did these same things on your own targeting reports, I bet it would look very different. You would find, especially if you've made the mistake of over optimizing, where you would probably find that you have over 1,000 keywords that are running into this problem of low visibility and driving up wasted spend. Andrew, anything to add there so far?
Yeah, no, I would just say that the most of the accounts that we're looking at are much worse than this, that's for sure. They're usually upwards of like 20, 30, sometimes 50% of their total spend going towards these low visibility, targets. So this is a account obviously that has been very well managed and been working with AdLabs for a long time.
Yeah, and I wish we could show you. It was two brands that we just audited recently, and we closed both of those deals, so they both started in February. But both of those brands very much had this problem, and both of those brands had around 3,000 keywords that were falling into these conditions, and that total spend it was getting to a pretty large number. It was around like 10% of all of their ad spend. So if they had around yeah, like they were spending around $30,000 a month. We saw that just in the last 30 days, it was like they were dropping 3-4K on all of these inefficient terms. There's tons of keywords where the bids on average were too high. So that's what you would do. Now, there's one other reason for why this is not showing up very good results, like a lot of like wasted spend. And I could also do, so let's start talking about how we would fix this, right? So I could also filter in for sales is actually, yeah, I could definitely do like sales is equal to 0 to see a little bit more of a better idea. So in this case, like $170 of spend without any sales. So these would be the items where it's like, hey, on average, these CPCs are too high relative to what we can usually afford. And because these items don't have sales yet, they're all adding up. And this would be something that we would say we need to reduce those bids. So the way you would fix this up yourself on a if you're managing your own accounts on bulk sheets or whatever, is it's okay to increase bids on low visibility items, but you do not want to increase it beyond that 6 cent ceiling. So if I looked at all the bids that were below 60 cents, I think I said 6 cents, but I meant 60 cents. So if I looked at everything where less than bid is less than 0.6. So here we have 8,000 keywords. This one, all of these actually are adding up to quite a bit more wasted spend. So this is going to look like, I mean, I'm kind of defeating my point here just because this example is not that great. But these would be the keywords that they seem like they're actually wasting a ton of spend right now, but technically, a lot of these things you'll see that like they've already actually been optimized. Like the bids are nowhere near like what the historical CPCs are, which is where a lot of this spend came from. So like our high spend no sales situation would have fixed that. But for everything else here, all these bids that are truly low visibility, don't really have much spend. These are all the items that you could easily just select all of those ones, and you could say, hey, we're gonna bulk edit, and we're going to increase these bids by 5% or 10% or 15%, whatever is what percent you're increasing kind of depends on your goals and how aggressive you're trying to be in incrementing these bid increases and also how regularly you're going and optimizing them. If you do it very frequently, smaller adjustments. Not as frequently, larger adjustments. But um, all of this, the reason why it's a bad example right now is because I'm keeping everything based on the account level. So that's way too generalized, way too average. So when I come here to check out all of the different products that I have, uh, you'll see we have some that are super high AOV, and we've got others that are very low AOV. And if we look at the conversion rates on those conversion rates are going to be all over the place, which I can't find it quickly because this is not the normal account. We're gonna have some with really high conversion rates, others with really low conversion rates. All that's going to mean we're gonna have wildly different revenue per clicks and affordable CPCs. So for some of the more premium products, you can actually get significantly higher CPCs, and other ones they got to be quite a bit lower if you're trying to stay profitable across the board. So all of that to be said, when it comes down to really getting things dialed in, it's even better to do things at a campaign and ad group level. So these bid ceilings that we're talking about should really be dynamic. So if we just said, hey, 60 cent is the max bid that we can technically afford for that worst performing placement, then if we just hit that across the whole entire, all of our targets, if we just like capped it at 60 cents, there's a lot of keywords where that's being way too restrictive and they're going to be penalized and you're going to lose sales because that ceiling was too tight. And there's going to be a whole bunch of other keywords that are continuing to run in their death by 1,000 cuts problem because their actual bid ceilings came in at like 20 cents, 30 cents. So you really need to have a ceiling that's dynamic, especially because the conversion rate trends over time are constantly going up and down. So that's another reason why like these calculations, it might be 60 cents now, the average CPC that we can afford. But like if we were to look at like the placements tab, if we were to look at like uh last year, like for the entirety of all of last year, you'll see product pages was actually it was still 60 cents. This brand's very consistent. Maybe May or actually let's just do like last just December. So last December, we'll see what it was just for last month because it was a gifting season. I'm sure we probably could have afforded a little more. Uh, Andrew, I'm struggling, dude. I'm not getting to my to the points I'm trying to make today. Uh, but yeah, for this brand, the ACoS and conversion rates on product pages stayed relatively stable. But for a lot of other brands, when you're going through all these different seasons and seasonalities, you're gonna have some really big difference. So where am I going with this? Let's cut to the chase, Stephen. All right. So let's pretend that this brand, just so that we get more examples to optimize for, I'm going to pretend that the target ACoS is 25% instead of 30%, just so that we can hopefully trigger a few more like death by 1,000 cuts scenarios. So, you would select all your campaigns, and we would say the goal is 25%. The goal is to reduce ACoS, all these things, and then for now, I'm just going to like turn off the max decrease and increase settings, and we're only going to optimize the high spend, no sales, and the low visibility keywords just to kind of see what we can get. And one thing that's important to note is for the last 30 days, we're spending $35,000, and we want to see how much of that spend is overspending what we can technically afford. And so let's just filter down once again to just let's just look at just the low visibility items here. For the high spend keywords, those are like obvious. The high spend keywords that need bid reductions. This is not death by 1,000 cuts. These are death by gashes. Like when something has overspent the target CPA and is still not driving a sale, that is a major gash. When we're talking about death by 1,000 cuts, we more so mean what are the items with like just tiny amounts of spend that on average are adding up. These big gashes, these are pretty obvious to clean up. So we're looking at just the high spend, just the low visibility items. We could look at just the low visibility items to see there's $800 of spend here. That's low visibility. Some of these can be bid increased, right? That's the whole point of this. It is okay to increase these bids, but if we were to do it one more filter for delta is less than 0, which means we are only doing the decreases here because we're really focused on only cleaning up the wasted spend. You would see we're actually still kind of getting pretty close to what we had before, but the difference is that these bid ceilings are much more dynamic. They're being calculated from the ad group level. So to wind everything back, at the very beginning, I was talking about, finding what's your average clicks to conversion to define low visibility, and what should your target CPC be. We're doing the same thing here, except we're doing it for every single individual ad group, because every ad group is going to have a different product and different keywords, which means different price points, different average order values, and also different conversion rates, which all of that is going to mean a different target CPC. We're going to have some that can only bid 50 cents. We're going to have some that can bid $2. So all of that needs to be taken into account. And so rather than just having one account level governing average clicks to conversion and average target CPC, you're going to be way more accurate doing it on an individual ad group to ad group basis. So you're going to see some of these ad group bid ceilings come in at 25 cents. This keyword, it only spent $2. It's not that significant, but it all adds up. You can see the average CPC here was 55 cents. So like on average, it was spending more than could technically be afforded by this ad group. Now, I'm going to pause, Andrew. Any interjections yet, or should I just keep going?
Just keep going, man. You're doing great.
I'm just ripping, yeah, ranting. So here's like sometimes the campaign is going to be like where the bid ceiling is being governed because the ad group itself didn't quite have enough data yet. So you can kind of technically do this on bulk sheets. It's just really, really dang difficult because there's usually a lot of campaigns and a lot of ad groups that need to be considered. The point in all of this, though, is this account has been pretty well optimized. There's not that much opportunity. What we usually see when you run these conditions where you're looking for what are all the keywords with low visibility that have bids or CPCs higher than what's technically affordable for that ad group or that campaign. A lot of the times you end up with thousands of keywords that on average are paying too much, and all that spend adds up to thousands of dollars of wasted spend. And it is one of the easiest and lowest hanging fruits. And if you wanted to be really, really careful with your adjustments, you could also filter in for just sales equals to 0. Because you're going to have some items here that are like, it's like this one here, it's low visibility, but it does have some sales. You're going to have some other ones that are like low visibility and like they do have some sales. So, you might not want to touch those ones just yet. But if you filter it down for just the ones that are sales equal to 0, you can be just extra cautious with your bid reductions. So in these ones, 600 keywords. Let's also say spend is greater than 0 too. Spend is greater than 0. So we have 157 keywords where spend is greater than 0, sales are currently 0, and these bids are higher than what's technically affordable. Now, this is great because you can increase on all your low visibility terms. That's great. But if you just increase on all low visibility terms, you're going to run into that death by 1,000 cuts problem. You need to sometimes decrease bids on low visibility terms, and this is how you define it. And if we were to also throw in the gashes, the high spend keywords, and everything else, that's $800. That's $800 out of the $35,000 of spend. That's around 2% of all of our spend is, driving up costs, not converting. And again, there's not a problem with $1 of spend here and no sales. That's not a problem necessarily. It is a problem if that bid or that CPC is above what's technically affordable, because that's where there's actually an optimization opportunity. So I hope all of that makes sense. I know it was a little bit all over the place. I got a little bit confused myself because this is not my normal account, so I can't really see, or everything's jarbled, so I can't really tell what's going on. But Andrew, save me. Jump in here.
All right, I'll jump in and save you, Steven. That was very well done. Very to the point, and I think you covered a lot there. So just to summarize everything, I mean, what we're looking for are opportunities to bring bids down on things that maybe haven't got clicked that much, but based on what we know about the average target CPCs, we need to dial those bids back because we're paying too much than we can really afford. And it's okay to increase low visibility keywords. Got to start continuing to push those bids up, but only to a certain point. And that's where we impose those bid ceilings that kind of cap things out, make sure we're not overspending on certain targets. And that really will help solve a lot of this. And if things are above the target CPC, that bid ceiling operates as kind of a new ceiling that we need to pull things down below. And within AdLabs, we obviously have a lot of different ways to calculate this. We're doing it a very granular level that you can't really do. I mean, I know you said you can do it in bulk sheets, but like it's very difficult and would take way too much time than most people have with the number of clients that a lot of people are servicing. So, anything that you'd add to that, Steven, that you want to kind of throw in there to close us up?
Yeah, I'm gonna add two more thoughts, trying to anticipate some of the questions that you guys would throw at me. And remember, comment if you got questions. We try to do a good job getting back to everyone. But you might have seen there were some items with $0 of spend, and I just flipped this filter over to say spend equal to 0. So now we're looking at what are all the keywords with no spend that are currently low visibility and getting bid reductions based on these smart bid ceilings, these ad group bid ceilings. We're saying that these bids are beyond what the ad group can technically afford at a CPC level. So we're trying to reduce the bid, even though it has no spend. You guys would go, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing that. You should also be optimizing the keyword bids and reducing bids on stuff with $0 of spend if you want to be profitable. And here's why. These keywords are not necessarily low visibility because you're not bidding high enough. I think we started saying this. Sometimes they're low visibility because the traffic is going to another keyword. So if I have tennis rackets, exact match or phrase match, whatever, in one campaign and also in another campaign, and let's just say they're both bidding $2, even though I can only afford a $1 CPC on average. So they're both bidding $2. Maybe this one campaign just doesn't have any spend. It's low visibility because all the traffic's going to this other campaign, right? So I don't optimize it. I leave it at $2. But that other campaign is high ACoS. So it's a $1 bid. I reduce that bid to it's a $2 bid. I reduce it a tiny bit down to $1, $1.50, whatever. Once I reduce that bid, all the traffic shifts over to the other term that was previously low visibility. And now it starts going crazy and spending it with high ACoS. So when you reduce the bids on some keywords, sometimes that shifts spend away to other keywords that and you can see this sometimes. Sometimes you have a low visibility keyword, you didn't even touch the bid, but it just starts spending out of nowhere. Like, dude, this thing was sleeping for 6 months and out of nowhere just starts going crazy. Sometimes it's because you moved something somewhere else. And so there was another keyword in your account that had the next highest bid. And so that's why it is still a good idea to just just use some safety measures. Like, I mean, you could decide to just not increase these bids if you wanted to, or just like put them at 0. But you definitely should not be increasing even when things have $0 to spend. Like, and we see this all the time in accounts that we audit. There will be keywords with $0 of spend, and they're bidding $10, $20, and these systems are just increasing the bids. And it's like, okay, we know you can't afford a $10 CPC, so what's the bid doing there? That's what all of this is meant to solve, and we also just see that all the time. So if you want to safely increase bids, and this is the very final point, you can just say, hey, I'm only looking for my low visibility keywords, and I only want to look at the increase opportunities. And it's way better to just increase bids on, or I can still increase on around 1,000 keywords. So it's better for me to increase the bids on all these low visibility keywords that, that are not running into any ceilings or out of the affordability range of our CPCs. And if you do these increases safely and then reduce on some others safely, that's going to be how you get a lot better scalability, growth, and profitability from your campaigns. And you're going to have the utmost confidence that you could just increase all these bids safely by 5%, 10%, 15%, but just having that dynamic smart bid ceiling in place is going to be way better compared to the mistake that I see people do, which is they just grab a bunch of like, oh yeah, if it has low impressions, I've got 8,000 keywords with low impressions. We're just going to bulk increase bids by 5%. And you're like, oh, it's 5%. It's nothing. But just because of the sheer quantity of keywords that you had, and because a lot of them already had $2, $5 bids, and you're just like increasing them more, it's just like, that's where you're going to run into a lot of problems. So that's what we're trying to solve. That's how you solve it. And if you have questions, comment.
All right, guys. If you like this episode, if you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe. We've got a whole catalog of episodes we've done up to this point. I think this is episode 91. So there's a whole bunch more in the library. Go back, check those videos out, and make sure you subscribe to see all the latest ones we have coming out. So, all right. See you next time on That Amazon Ads Podcast.
Peace out.